In Resident Evil, the origin of the zombie outbreak are T virus and G virus. In Last of Us, the origin is cordyceps, but it ever occurred to you that what is the origin of walkers in TellTale's The Walking Dead? Like, we never really got to know much about the walkers throughout the whole game series, and this is exactly what we are gonna focus on in this video. Because I feel like that this thing about TellTale's The Walking Dead is not discussed enough in the game's fan base. It's an underrated topic, honestly. Okay, so first of all, let me tell you that there are three versions of The Walking Dead: The Walking Dead game series, The Walking Dead comic book series, and The Walking Dead TV show. So in this video, we are gonna understand walkers with the information from all the three versions combined. So let's begin now. Let's start from the very basics. In order for the easier understanding, we are gonna start from the scratch. That is, we are gonna first see that what are the walkers. Zombies are relatively weak and unintelligent as individuals, but are dangerous in large numbers and in tight spaces. They are the main antagonists within the post-apocalyptic world of The Walking Dead. The vast majority of the human population, 6.3 billion people as of 2003 and 6.9 billion people as of 2010, has been wiped out by zombies, which at their peak outnumbered humans 5,000 to 1. This leaves about 1.2 million and 2 million survivors left in the comic and television universes, respectively. So now you know that what the walkers actually are, and that how they are different from the zombies of Resident Evil and that of universes of other games. Unlike them, walkers don't go through any kind of evolution and are really weak and dumb, but their numbers is what makes them deadly. Now coming on to the important segment, which is the pathogen responsible for the walkers, which is called the Wildfire virus. The pathogen in the television universe is termed as the Wildfire virus. Everyone in the Walking Dead universe somehow contracted the zombie pathogen that, most likely airborne, brings the recently deceased back to life. It is unknown where the disease originated from, nor it is known whether it is natural or man-made disease. Scientist Dr. Edwin Jenner did not even rule out the possibility that the disease is of supernatural origin. In the television universe, it was created by a team of scientists at La Biomedicine DDMI in France. The exact taxonomy of the pathogen is also unknown. Curiously, the pathogen itself does not kill its hosts. Instead, it remains dormant, likely within neural cells in the brain, leaving its host visibly and physically healthy. Only when the host dies does the pathogen become active, infecting and reviving neural structures in the brainstem and certain parts of the cerebellum, turning a human into a zombie. A zombie is thus a condition a recently deceased host enters when the pathogen is in its active stage. So everyone in the Walking Dead universe have contracted the virus, which means that the virus is airborne. Whether it is natural or whether it is man-made, it is completely unknown. But in the TV show, Wildfire virus was created by a team of scientists at La Biomedicine DDMI in France. Now let's see that how the virus is transmitted. Transmission. The zombie pathogen seems to possess two separate but parallel modes of infection: latent and fluid contact, bites or scratches. Latent. In the Walking Dead universe, most if not every human being on the planet is believed to be infected by a dormant strain of the zombie pathogen. It is currently unknown how one contracts the dormant stage of the pathogen, though its apparent total infection rate worldwide suggests it is either airborne, waterborne, or both. Once infected, the virus spreads throughout the body through the blood, likely concentrating in the central nervous system. However, as long as the host remains alive, the pathogen remains latent or dormant within them and is asymptomatic to the host. While massive amounts of radiation, one large enough to be fatal, have been shown to kill the active infection. they are not able to kill the latent infection. Fluid contact, bites or scratches. Though physical contact with zombie saliva or blood will not cause an individual fatal infection, any fluid contact with open wounds will lead to irreversible contamination of the individual. However, zombie bites are not fatal because of the dormant zombie pathogen. Rather, one possible explanation is that through bites, the active pathogen carried within zombies induces a fatal and irreversible cytokine storm, further exacerbated by bacteria that reside in a zombie's mouth. Scratches could cause similar infections for similar reasons. However, no one in the comic or TV show has ever gotten the fever as a result of a scratch. While zombie scratches and clawing rarely cause fatal infections, the deep gouges generally left by zombie bites are almost always fatal. Death can be potentially avoided if the bite is on an appendage, which must be immediately amputated. However, this does not always work, and the bites on the torso or on veins or arteries are universally fatal. Even if the amputation proves successful at removing the infection, blood loss and subsequent infection is also extremely dangerous due to the generally unprofessional execution of the procedure. So there are two modes of infection, latent and fluid contact. Latent means that each and every human being in the Walking Dead's universe is infected by the pathogen. In season 1's second episode, Ben reveals this fact for the first time. Now next one is fluid contact. Basically this means that if any person has been bitten by a walker, then they will get infected and will eventually turn. But this can be prevented by amputating the respective body part. But that doesn't work all the time and is a very dangerous procedure too. Large amounts of radiation can kill the infection, but the amount required is fatal for the human body in itself. Now let's see the symptoms of the infection. Symptoms of infections. The zombie pathogen seems to possess two stages, a dormant stage and an active stage. Dormant stage. As mentioned previously, during the dormant stage, the pathogen is asymptomatic. The host will thus remain healthy despite being technically infected and will continue to remain so as long they are alive. After the host dies, the dormant pathogen enters the active stage and will begin the process of reanimating the body through the infection and reactivation of neural structures in the brain. No matter how an individual dies, unless their brain was severely damaged or destroyed, they will reanimate into a zombie following death. Active stage. The pathogen enters the active stage when an individual dies and is responsible for the host's reanimation as a zombie. When an individual is bitten by a zombie, the active pathogen is transmitted into them as well as a plethora of bacteria and other infectious agents that reside in a zombie's mouth. In the event that amputation fails or is not possible, it is believed that the active pathogen then induces a fatal and irreversible cytokine storm, causing a high fever, aches, extreme fatigue, and nausea. As the infection progresses, the active pathogen invades and spreads through the brain like meningitis, infecting synapses and other neural structures that are concentrated in the brainstem and parts of the cerebellum. At the climax of the infection, the adrenal glands hemorrhage and the brain completely shuts down. All brain activity would cease, followed by the major organs, and the body would be clinically dead. No measurable brain activity, no reflexes, and no respiration or pulse. The time between the onset of the symptoms and death, followed by reanimation, is very dependent on the severity, location, and quantity of the bite wound of individuals who cannot be saved. So there are two stages. First, the dormant stage, and the second is active stage. During the dormant stage, the host will remain healthy despite being infected, and after death will come back as a walker until and unless the brain is destroyed. In the active stage, the pathogen invades the brain and then the host dies. Some of its symptoms are dizziness, weakness and fatigue, fever, delirium, hallucinations, chills, nausea, vomiting, pale skin, dilated pupils, soreness, fluid discharge, spontaneous aggression or anger, fainting, hair loss and missing scalp pieces, dehydration, coughing up blood, pale yellow clera, internal hemorrhaging, organ failure. Reanimation. The dead corpse of anyone that dies for any reason will reanimate as a zombie, unless the brain of the individual is badly damaged or destroyed, or the person was dead prior to the outbreak. As seen on the MRI of Cadence Jenner, when a person dies, the active pathogen they carry enters the active stage and reactivates critical areas of the brain that it infected, specifically the brainstem and some parts of the cerebrum and cerebellum that supports necessary vital systems such as movement, resulting in reanimation after a variable amount of time. Since the active pathogen only reactivates the brainstem and not parts of the brain such as the frontal lobe and neocortex that are responsible for higher order brain functions, the reanimated person retains only a physical resemblance to their former self. In the TV series, it was stated by Dr. Jenner that, according to all gathered evidence and research available at the time, a corpse can reanimate between 3 minutes and 8 hours right after death. Though there are instances where reanimation seems to happen much quicker, and the TellTale series suggests that it could happen in seconds. So this was about reanimation, which means that how people become walkers after their death. They will come back no matter what, until and unless the brain isn't destroyed. Now let's understand the physiology of the walkers. Physiology. Zombies have the ability to detect scents and can differentiate between the living and the dead. They prefer to feed on living flesh. Covering oneself in the scent of decay can act as a camouflage. They can also use sight to distinguish the living from the dead, although they seem to have poor eyesight as their irises fade and decay over time. They make up for this with heightened senses of hearing and smell. Darkness seems to have little effect on zombies' senses at close range, and in areas devoid of light they can still find their way around as they would in the day. Individual zombie strength depends on the physical makeup of the individual and on how long they have been reanimated. When attacking, zombies often becomes more lively, exhibiting full body effort and can produce enough force to quickly overwhelm an adult human. Zombies have been shown to be able to rip open human and animal victims with ease, and they can even rip off human limbs with enough force. As zombies decay, however, their muscles and consequently their entire body becomes slowly but surely weaker. Zombies feel no pain, although slow and seemingly unintelligent when not active. They can react quickly to sufficient stimulation and can rapidly overpower a victim they have taken by surprise. Though their bodies are no more or less durable than a non-decomposed human body, they can absorb all manner of physical damage, even when badly decomposed. Anything other than a head attack, spinal cord severing, or dismemberment leaves them seemingly unfazed, as long as their brain remains intact. Everything that is attached to the brain can continue to function as normal, even if only the skull remains and is severed from the body. Other than a mostly intact brain, zombies don't appear to require any vital systems or organ functions to survive, although their ambulatory functions do decrease as their level of decomposition increases. Sufficient physical damage can slow them down or render them incapacitated. Compared to humans, zombies have rather limited mobility. Unstimulated, zombies stand still or shuffle around slowly. When in this state, they are sometimes referred to as lurkers, as they can quickly activate, attack and kill. Zombies can also be found lying on the ground or in piles of other bodies, and can appear to be dead until stimulated. If they are pursuing a possible victim, zombies can move somewhat more quickly, roughly equivalent to a very light jogging pace. They can also lunge very short distances to grab close prey. They are difficult to shake off if they do manage to grab their victims, often allowing their arm to be ripped off before they will begin to let go. So walkers have the ability to differentiate between the living and the dead. Their eyesight is poor, but they have got good sense of hearing and smell. Everything that is attached to the brain can continue to work as normal as long as the brain is still intact. Now let's understand the behavior of walkers. Behavior. A reanimated body responds to stimuli such as light, scent and loud noises, or even if the head is separated from the body. As long as the brain is intact, the head will still attempt to eat anything within reach. The body of a zombie does appear to be truly dead, which means that it does not feel pain, has no reflexes, and wounds to it will not heal. Its rate of decomposition slows drastically but does continue. There is anecdotal evidence that some retain vestigial elements of memory and personality, and this is shown some repeating behavior such as clinging to possessions, attempting to open doors, and even using large rocks to break through windows and doors. Zombies, though, are incredibly unintelligent and generally unable to use tools or understand the need for them. It has been hinted at that newly reanimated corpses retain some basic sense of intellect and perhaps memory, and can perform very basic tasks such as opening doors. They have no sense of self-preservation other than eating, and will not react at all to the deaths of other zombies or to potentially lethal dangers to themselves. Zombies instinctively bite whatever prey they come in contact with, but have also been observed clawing at, tearing and even punching humans and animals in order to topple them. They are slow and have a hard time overcoming obstacles, but have on occasion been shown to perform tasks like running and climbing fences. So walkers respond to light, scent and loud noises, and there is also some anecdotal evidence that some walkers retain elements of memory and personality, like clinging to possessions, attempting to open doors and using large rocks to break through windows, and besides this, they can even climb fences. Disposal. Because a zombie is derived from a human form, it is limited physically by many of the same constraints that a human has. But because a zombie is by definition dead, it slowly rots and decays like other dead organisms. Over time, flesh and muscles deteriorate and it becomes less and less formidable. They are only truly killed by destroying the brain, a common theme in many zombie variations. A severed head will remain animated and aggressive until the brain is destroyed or eventually disintegrates from decomposition. Fire has a little effect on zombies other than possibly angering them further, and normally lethal things such as acid or electricity also do little to impede them. They can be paralyzed if their spinal cords are severed, though if they still have enough, functional use of their arms only makes them much less ambulatory, clawing and dragging themselves across the ground. Radiation isn't enough to keep someone from turning, and if a person dies of radiation sickness, their walker remains will be radioactive. Basically, the only way to get rid of a walker is to destroy the brain. Now let's talk about that if walkers possess any intelligence or not. Intelligence. Though zombies retain a physical resemblance to the living, cognitive similarities are almost non-existent beyond low-level functions. Though there are examples of behavior that suggest zombies may retain small fragments of memory of their past lives. Zombies have enough intelligence to walk upright, to use their bodies, to break objects, and to climb around or over somewhat small obstacles such as chain link fences. Zombies can ascend and descend staircases, albeit very clumsily and slowly. They cannot generally operate doors or gates and only attempt to do so when they are relatively fresh. They tend to bash through obstacles rather than traversing them. Mostly zombies are void of any emotional expression and thought. When stimulated, whether by noise, sight of prey, or simply encountering a problem they cannot solve, such as being unable to open a locked door, they quickly descend into a state of homicidal aggression. If they spot prey when stimulated, they can pursue them ceaselessly, showing ravenous hunger. They are not hunters, however, and take no concern in alerting their victims or trying to hunt them with intelligence, always seeming to roar, grunt, and growl whenever they are stimulated. Zombies seem to be only drawn to noise such as that of a gunshot, presumably because they attribute the source of the noise to be caused by potential victims and the smell of any blood that does not belong to a zombie. They have, however, occasionally been shown to be able to catch their victims by surprise, notably the walker who fatally wounded Dale Horvath, which approached him silently and before pouncing him was only stimulated when Dale turned to see it. Zombies also tend to form groups and stick together and mimic the actions of other zombies, giving them a mob mentality. This can lead to newer zombies. Zombies forming herds. Large hordes of zombies are far more dangerous and aggressive than smaller groups. In guards, zombies remain a further animalistic trait within their herds, appearing to sniff out or examine new coming zombies before leaving them be, as they do to Vic and Glenn, which may indicate that zombies seem to be able to familiarize themselves with their own kind and be cautious of ones they do not recognize. Newer zombies may rarely use primitive tools such as using a heavy brick to smash a window, but none have any high-level abilities to use items in their environment. Over a decade after the outbreak began, a zombie of this type was encountered by Aaron, Jerry, Elijah, and Lydia, and Aaron comes to the conclusion that they are actually a variant type of zombie that is only rarely encountered to the point that they are mostly only relegated to stories. In France, variants are much more prevalent. Isabelle Carrier noting that the burner variant is just one kind of zombie in France. The walkers may retain some of their memories of their past life in some cases, and other than this, they can form big groups or herds. Newer walkers may have the ability to use primitive tools, but they lack speech capabilities. Now let's take a look at the eating habits of walkers. Eating habits. Zombies prefer to eat anything dead or alive, animals and people. Zombies do not digest food. When their bodies are full, the undigested meat will be forced out through the anus. As zombies are dead, their bodies will continue to rot even if they are well fed. Zombies are never shown in any media to exhibit cannibalistic tendencies, even after going through long periods without food, and only show interest in animals and living humans. If the zombie loses the ability to feed, they evidently lose their desire to do so, a behavior observed in Mikon's pet walkers. With their loss of desire for eating also comes with the loss of aggression and activity, unless present around other zombies. Those who have lost the will to eat will remain quiet and lethargic, mindlessly walking in and giving direction and paying no mind to humans. The presence of many zombies being partially consumed or missing limbs also indicates that zombies, though they seem perpetually hungry, do not always devour prey fully, meaning that at least for a short period of time can feel full and not want to eat. So walkers will eat anything dead or alive as long as it's a human or an animal. They don't eat each other. Now coming on to camouflage, which was shown in the game series 2. Camouflage. It's been discovered by survivors that there are ways for them to blend in with zombies without being noticed. It's learned that when a person covers themselves in the scent of a zombie or corpse, other zombies can tell the difference between them and one of their own. The first camouflage method to be discovered was using the guts technique. By smearing parts of the body with zombie blood, a person is able to come across zombies undetected. Unfortunately, there are two problems with this technique. The first problem is that the blood can easily dry up or be washed off, leaving you once again being noticed by passing zombies. The second problem is that zombies will attack regardless of if the user draws attention to themselves, such as causing extremely loud noises or start bleeding their own blood. This technique was first discovered by Vic and Glenn as they were walking through Atlanta. Nicholas Clark was able to use this technique several times without incident after discovering it by accident. Notably, on the first time he did it, the walkers continued to ignore him even after Nick killed several. Due to the danger of getting sick from normal contagious within the blood, survivors tend to spread the blood and guts on a sheet or a piece of clothing that they are wearing rather than direct skin contact. During the final battle of the Whisper War in a certain doom, the coalition used this trick to great effect to pass through a massive horde and later to infiltrate it and silently assassinate their enemies within. Zombie skin technique. The user masks their smell by skinning the skin of zombies, curing it into human leather, which eliminates the danger of contagion, and wearing them as clothing. Faces and scalps are usually used to create a mask, which can be repaired by sewing in newer pieces. Now, there are two ways to camouflage within a herd of walkers. First is by taking walker guts and rubbing them all over yourself, and to walk slowly and quietly among the walkers. This was done a lot of times in the game series too. Second one is the walker skin technique. In this, a person has to cut up a walker skin and to craft clothes out of it. This was used by James in the final season of the game series.
No. Stop. Too loud. Follow.
Alright, so first we learnt about the Wildfire virus, which is the origin of the outbreak in the game. Then we discussed that how the virus is transmitted. Then we talked about the symptoms of the infection. Then we discussed about reanimation of the corpses. Then we understood the physiology of walkers. After that, we understood their behavior, and then we learnt about that how to get rid of a walker. Then we discussed about their intelligence. Then we discussed their eating habits, and lastly we understood that how to camouflage among walkers. So this was the whole explanation about walkers and their origin. Alright, this is it for this video, and I will see you all in the next video. Take care and bye bye.